Welcome back to the channel, guys. So we just got news. Well, I'm actually kind of late to this, but we got news a couple weeks back that we're apparently going to get another Star Wars trilogy. The whole gist of the whole thing is, well, initially when I did my initial research, I don't know about you guys. I guess there was like somewhat of a conversation that this would take place in a different timeline, or a different portion of the timeline as we know it, to the point where I forget what website, but I checked that people were thinking, well, if they want to do another Star Wars trilogy, that there's one particular part of the timeline that would be very good for us to finally dive into from a film perspective, even though they've kind of screwed up the TV show perspective, which would be, I believe, the Old Republic is what people were really hoping for, which would be nice. It would be nice to see a film that centered around or included the story of Darth Revan, obviously, and some other major characters. But for me, Darth Revan would be a big one, the main one, honestly. When the news initially broke, a lot of people were thinking, well, if there's a chance that this new trilogy is going to focus on a different portion of the timeline or a different timeline altogether, please let it take place Darth Revan's time. It's not. It's going to be a continuation of the Skywalker saga as we've known it. And they're bringing back, I don't know the actress's name. I don't know how she feels about it. I mean, she's going to do the job. Apparently, she's going to do the job. The girl that played Rey in the post-sequel trilogy, yeah, she's coming back as Rey, unfortunately. The way that the latest piece of news that I saw that came out, I think I checked it out like last week maybe, and I saw it when I did some research for this, was that they're apparently trying to frame her as the new Obi-Wan of the trilogy. I don't even know what that means. Well, at least in the comics, Luke is the one that starts by trying to rebuild the Jedi Order. That's actually something they tackled in the sequel trilogy. And clearly it didn't go anywhere. So is she going to try again? Is there going to be, like, is she going to be a main character still? Is she going to be a deuteragonist that has a student of her own, but she's going to be very much in tow, and she'll be the wise teacher? Like, how's that going to be? Like, what does it mean to say that Rey is going to be framed as the new Obi-Wan Kenobi of this new sequel Star Wars trilogy? Especially because that's a heck of a leap. We saw with actual Obi-Wan, played by Ewan McGregor, we saw him go from apprentice Padawan Obi-Wan, then to Jedi Knight / Master, at least by title, in that he had Anakin as his Padawan at the time, and then an actual Jedi Master once Anakin became a Jedi Knight in Episode 3. We saw him go through there, and then if you want to revert, depending on what order you watch everything, you could go back to the original trilogy where you see Ben Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi, but change his identity, and, you know, full of wisdom. I know there are discrepancies, which is why a lot of people don't like the prequel trilogy. I overall like them, but that could be just a perspective because I grew up on them. And, you know, point being, we got to see the growth of Obi-Wan to some extent. At least now you can. And, you know, you develop a certain level of respect for him because you know his backstory. Even if you grew up watching the original trilogy and then you saw in the early 2000s, you caught up on this prequel trilogy, you know, again, certain things may not be as you loved, but at least you now got more concrete information when it came to Obi-Wan's development, which led to Ben Kenobi, which I think everyone universally loves. No one likes Rey. No one likes Rey at all. I don't like her. The fact that I forget his name. I forget the brother's name. I'll post a picture of him on here. But the black guy that was initially, like, they admitted he was supposed to be the center of the new trilogy at the time, the sequel trilogy, but because racial backlash, people didn't like that. So now they put the non-black person, also a lady, on center stage, and that didn't work out too well because in order for any other type of warrior, any character that surrounds primarily around battle, combat, war, violence, life and death situations, you usually have to go through some pretty gruesome things. And the fact of the matter is, if you put a woman in center stage of those type of situations, generally speaking, at least if you put that type of story, at least in live action, let's say it like that, at least in live action, no one wants to see that. And if a male director, screenwriter, people like that who can control the story and the direction it's going were to try to do that, you already know what labels are going to come up. There's no point in even trying. because and I make it a point to say live action because if like anime stuff, we already know that's a whole different realm. Like freaking Mario Leona from Black Clover. Y'all know about Yoruichi. If you know Bleach and you know what happened to Rangiku during the fake Karakura Town arc, goodness, she was essentially blown in half. You know what I'm saying? So in those mediums, it's okay, especially if they end up making it. Even if they don't, it's anime, manga, people get unalived, and that's that. But in live action, you don't want to see a girl get beat up in a storyline that centers around combat violence, life and death, training that may potentially unalive you, all those things, because in real life, because we translate that differently from the medium, it's more likely to have a backlash effect on the people behind it. With that said, she doesn't feel developed. She was too much of a Mary Sue. She had her moments, but I still hold the opinion that Oscar Isaac was more of the shining star in the sequel trilogy. And again, my favorite scene in the sequel trilogy, at least from him, but I say in general, was when he essentially led the mutiny. And he kind of spazzed out when he went up against the captain, I forget her name, and he was like, wait, are you filling up the reserve ships or whatever it is, like those pods? That's your plan, is to send us out of here? And we don't have any shields, they're not meant for it, we're gonna be dead in space. Like, are you kidding me? And then he called her a coward and all that stuff. I like that scene, not because he attacked a woman verbally. Like, that was probably the most energetic scene, maybe, of the entire trilogy. You know what I'm saying? Like, his acting ability really showed in general, and he has some funny moments, like the spice scene when I think it was like his old crew or something they linked up with. That was a pretty funny scene. I don't know if it's necessarily the actress's ability, but Rey as a character is just a flat out no. So when it comes to this new era of Star Wars that they want to create, they tapped on Simon Kinberg, who apparently was a director behind Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings, as well as other shows that, some hit or misses, but everyone, has their, hit and misses on their rap sheet. Now, one particular thing I didn't know was that he played a very good role, or a big role, in Star Wars Rebels, which was something that when I initially saw it, I was like, I'm not going to care about it. It's probably a kid's cartoon or kid-friendly Star Wars story. Then I watched it a few years back and I was hooked. Not necessarily right away. Like, I didn't hate it right away. It was like, it was cool. It was, whatever. But as it went on, I want to say into the second or third season, when Ezra cut his hair and his personality change started happening, Darth Maul came back. I was like, oh, this is good. This is really good. It got so personal. Oh, there are some tear-jerking moments in that. It was so tear-jerking. He had a hand in that series. So if he's going to be a director and they're going to stick with that, then I think we might be okay. Basically, I think we have a good time. We have a decent chance of getting work that actually will be received positively, because we're, is being led, or at least a major hand will be from someone that has not only worked with the Star Wars IP in a different facet, in a different medium, that still had positive results. A lot of people like it. A lot of people love it. Whether you check TikTok or otherwise, a lot of people are like Star Wars Rebels, myself included, ended on a great note, such a great note. But then you also have other things, like, again, he participated in the MCU. I forget what other IPs he's touched, but, again, some hits, some misses. But, he has I think a positive reputation. Like, you don't see Simon Kinberg and be like, oh no, he's going to ruin it. No, like, that was not the reaction. I think from the research I've done and knowing, again, he was behind Star Wars Rebels, I'm like, okay, I think we're off to a good start when it comes to the personnel that we know are going to be a part of this trilogy, because he's supposed to be going with the trilogy from front to back. So I think that's going to be pretty nice. When it comes to the initial reaction that I noticed, because I like to pay attention to that before I talk about these type of things to some degree. And again, it's considered a fresh start. It will be new characters, new worlds, a break from we'll see what he does. It might be a break from the Skywalker story, because that story truly is done. I really hope they don't find a way to bring Palpatine back up, or he has some direct influence on the event. I really hope they don't do that. I did not like it when they did that. I really wish they did not do it. I don't know why they did that. When it comes to the reception of the sequel trilogy and how divisive that was and still is, and I don't even know, my research said divisive. I think very few people like it. I have yet to hear a single person say anything positive about it and be like, oh, I watch all the time or I go back to it and da. If you ever go back to it, you probably have a handful of scenes like me that you remember that actually stuck out. And that's really it. Other than that, no. The only thing I think I've somewhat heard semi-consistently, depending on who you ask, I know I've seen this on Snarky J Cosplay's channel, is the first movie set things up for Kylo Ren very well. It was after that, for the last two movies, when I think the writer changed or the direction of the writing changed and things went to crap. Hopefully that's not going to happen again, but that's what really played into the downfall of the sequel trilogy. So I don't know if most people have that same opinion, that started on a good foot and then just quickly went so downhill that the whole thing was trashed, or, you know, if things had stayed consistent, and let's say, for example, only the last film had ended up being trashed in terms of the writing, then people could say, oh, the sequel trilogy was good until this, because they took things in a different direction because they changed writers. You know, I don't know, you know, how that looks to some people, like if that's how people received it. People do not say anything positive about the sequel trilogy in general. I only have the information as far as the director, Simon Kinberg, going to be the director for the entire sequel trilogy. That is, I think, good news, a good start. Where it'll take place, how far in the future, you're talking about Rey is going to be the new Obi-Wan. Is there going to be a major time skip? Well, which will therefore allow breathing room to potentially detach from the Skywalker saga altogether, and they truly can start something new, right? And take things to a different direction. Is there going to be a Jedi Order? Is it not? I think at this point they should stick to the theme of there not being a structured Jedi Order. I really want a film. I don't think it would make sense. This is just what I want. I really want a film or even a trilogy focusing on great Jedi. You know what I'm saying? Maybe exploring more of that lore of characters that happen to fall up in there, and, you know, we piece it together. Oh, he's more of a great Jedi. He's not scared to kill, but, you know, he's not going to go out and try to conquer the universe, all this and that. You know what I'm saying? Similar to Ahsoka. Just whether you want to include Ahsoka in it or not, whatever the case may be, I really want to explore the great Jedi. And a lot of people want to explore the Sentinels. That would be great too. But I personally really would love to see more about great Jedi, like specifically main focus. I don't even know if I want to hear about Sith anymore, not in a formal way. You know, we need breathing room. So I really hope they're not trying to do this truly as a direct continuation of the Skywalker saga, and they're going to bring some of those old themes and characters and whatnot back in. But again, Rey, new Obi-Wan Kenobi, no growth, no process. Is she even gonna have an apprentice? How is she gonna be friend? Where's she gonna get experience from? Her wisdom. Luke is gone. I'll leave that off here, guys. What are your thoughts on the news? Are you feeling a little bit better knowing whose hands are in it so far, and we can build on this as news comes out? Because I think they confirmed that the first film won't be out until November of 2026. I think it's like November 16th or 17th of 2026. And the second one will be out November 16th, 17th of November 2027. Yeah. So we got some breathing room. Still got some news that'll come out. Whose hands will be in it. Personnel changes. We'll see what happens with Blade. Or you know what happened with Blade, rather. So yeah, guys, go and let me know you think about this in the comment section below. What would you like to see? I really want to know what you guys would like to see. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.